Exclusive details on Northrend's design and the Last Titan. That's it. Blizzard's talking Last Titan. We got Midnight pre-patch going live. We don't got to talk about Midnight anymore. It's time to get into Last Titan. That's right. So Game Informer did a little interview here. It looks like with Ian Hazzikostas and a few other Blizzard devs. Let's talk about the Last Titan and see what Blizzard has to say about our final expansion of the World Soul Saga.
I think it's actually essential as we're building and trying to deliver a living world that we be able to tell new stories in familiar places, right? It would be so limiting if we said that the most iconic locations in all of World of Warcraft are off limits because we've already told a story there and they exist in a moment in time, and sorry, I guess we can never go back to Northrend. I guess we can never go back to some of these places. And so we're excited to really be able to tackle that.
As part of our recent cover story on World of
Warcraft. That's good to hear from Ian, because honestly, the one of the positives of having a game that's been alive for 20 years is you got a shit ton of content you can still pull from. And really good stuff has come out over those 20 years. One of those really good things is Northrend. Yeah, I'd be very excited to go back to Northrend. It's something that I love, that freaking zone. I love the lore. Obviously, Lich King vibes and all that stuff. Grizzly Hills, probably still one of the best zones ever put in the game. So I'm all about that. Yeah, send us back to old zones. One of the things I'm excited for with Midnight is that that cantina. I don't know if you guys remember what I'm talking about, because it really is a feature that I feel like Blizzard hasn't marketed a lot. But they have that like cantina place where you'll be able to go in and like pick up these weekly quests that send you to old zones. And wow, it looks like a fun thing, pretty cool. It's a cross faction, basically like little inn. Should be fun, and I feel like Blizzard hasn't marketed enough, but I'm excited to do it.
Warcraft Midnight.
The R
I spoke
Cantina.
with several
Yep, that's
key
what it's
developers at Blizzard about looking ahead to the Last Titan, the subsequent expansion that will bookend the World Soul Saga trilogy. Of course, Blizzard is tight-lipped about the expansion, as it's ostensibly several years away, but I was able to shed some light on the team's approach to redesigning Northrend, which the company has confirmed is a core focus of The Last Titan.
Nice.
Untouched since its introduction in 2008's Wrath of the Lich King expansion, the iconic location represents World of Warcraft's peak in pop culture.
I think we've been pretty open about recently. We were nervous about doing a return to Quel'Thalas, because sort of the implicit promise of a WoW expansion is going to lands unexplored, seeing new cultures, seeing new faces, and to have this story do something which is really cool in and of itself is like go back to Silvermoon, see how it's grown, see how the character.
Silvermoon was, I said it for a long time, such a great in-game asset that was just not being used, and obviously it was left like in a horrible state where you couldn't even fly in it or anything. It was just like literally TBC frozen in time. And I always thought it was a glorious looking city, and I kept saying, like, they got to redo this city. They got to finish this thing out, rebuild it for us. And I did say, long before it ever got revealed, I was like, make it cross-faction, make it a hub city for the expansion. And look at us. Look at us now. The Samiccus, the prophet, he foretold it, and here it is. I'm very excited to go back to Silvermoon. I think it's going to be a nice hub city. And just the music, the aesthetic, and it all, I'm good with it. I'm ready to do it.
Just have changed, has a lot of excitement. It also, maybe doesn't have as much of that. I'm going to the Dragon Isles, which we haven't seen before, or we're going to Khazalgar, which we haven't seen before. Now, we were able to accomplish some of that, right? We have Herondar, we have Voidstorm, we have a couple new spaces to explore, and Zul'Aman to some extent is in a large part unexplored. But that was something we were nervous about.
I mean, I think we are really encouraged by player reception of Midnight and the return to the Blood Elf lands. People first visited in Burning Crusade and seeing what's become of them and getting to explore an updated and reimagined version of them. I think that's, we've learned a lot of lessons from doing that, and that's going to inform our approach to Northrend or other places we may revisit down the line. I think it's about striking a balance between nostalgia and freshness. Having those familiar anchors that players are looking for and can't wait to see in fully modern fidelity, but also having expanded areas, clearly transformed areas in a way that makes it abundantly clear that this is a lot of time has passed, we're telling a different story this time around, and this isn't just the same place that you already know all about.
Yeah, he's right about expanding and everything. I think a lot of people don't realize this, but the entirety of the upper part of the Eastern Kingdoms has grown in size, literally. The whole like Amani troll zone and everything, that whole thing has been expanded out. When you like overlay the maps, it is now much bigger. The entirety of the upper part of the Eastern Kingdoms is much, much bigger now, which is good. It means there's a lot more detail in there, a lot of new stuff to discover, even though we're technically going back to old stuff. So I think this was a good test to see how they could rebuild old zones in the game At least, when I say this, I mean Midnight. And it looks like they're doing it. They did a great job with it. We'll see how it plays out in Midnight. But if they take the same philosophy into Northrend, I can't wait to see what they're going to do with it.
And when returning to a place like that, how do you go about choosing, whether it's Northrend or elsewhere? Like, how do you go about, oh, we're going to touch...
Is there an option to visit Old Silvermoon, Zul'Aman, and Under? I'm sure there will be. I'm sure there will be some kind of like time walking or a time, what's it called, time travel bullshit with a bronze dragon over there if you need it. There's always that option because there's like these old quests that'll disappear when the new zones become alive, and maybe someone wants to go back and do them.
This space, we're not going to touch this space.
I mean, I think we'll obviously talk much more about the details of Northrend execution down the line, but we're in progress on it. I think we definitely need to be very mindful of borders and like contiguous land masses and transitions. I think we would never want a situation where a player is, standing in one spot and then they walk 20 yards in that direction or 200 yards in that direction, and suddenly they're like in the middle of stuff that was built 20 years ago, right? And so even if we
have a realm
Dane,
to destroy.
So the dance, thank you for the dance and cry. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to our Scourge. If you're waiting for drops, they're not live just yet. A couple more hours on those.
As we thought about where we were going to draw these lines, part of why we made sure that we were bringing in both Eversong and the Ghostlands and kind of combining those into our new big Eversong space, part of why we pulled in a fully updated Zul'Aman. It's not just because we had specific stories we wanted to tell there, which of course we did, but also because we needed it to feel like a contiguous space that all makes sense together, that feels right art-wise and otherwise.
One thing I will say about New Silvermoon that I think they did a great job was pulling from Suramar. I feel like they learned a lot with Suramar. That city is absolutely glorious. About how, like, city design and how to make a city feel alive with the amount of NPCs in there, just kind of all the nooks and crannies that existed in Suramar. That's a freaking awesome city. And I really feel like they took a lot of that inspiration in the rebuilding of Silvermoon, because Silvermoon, in the images I've seen, I didn't go to it in the the PTR and all that because I don't want to spoil anything for myself. But it looks like a lived-in, awesome-looking city now.
So I guess for me, the special consideration for Northrend is just how universally beloved the expansion that took us there is. On a personal note, I think for us going there is really exciting and also a little scary. Not to just to be completely honest. So I think unlike Eversong Woods, where maybe Alliance players could have potentially not have ever interacted with it. Players that have been playing World of Warcraft for a very long time, for a lot of them, that was their introduction to World of Warcraft, and also the culmination to some of the stories that they saw in Warcraft 3. So it's definitely
there's a lot of Wrath babies out there. A lot of people, their first expansion in WoW was Wrath of the Lich King. So this is there's sensitivity here. They got to do it right if they do it, for sure.
In the tier list of beloved places, I would say it's high up there. I would say for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's an iconic place, and it's not just a zone or two. It's the whole continent, and that is, as Gabe said, a little scary. And it's paying or doing justice to people's memories of those places. Like Sholazar for me was one of my favorite places. I enjoyed the quests there, I enjoyed poking around, I enjoyed, siding with the oracles and then later siding with the Wolvar and trying to get all the loot. I have fond memories learning about Titan involvement in Sholazar as I quested. Nax. I spent so much time in Nax with my not so good guild. We safety dance, God, the safety dance over and over. So there are memories there that I think anyone who played there are going to, they're going to have. And we want to make sure that we're doing justice to those memories, but also telling the story that we're telling right now. And
speaking of memories, I hope they bring back the Frost Giant quest as like some sort of daily. You guys remember that one? Where you're riding on the back of the giant Frost Giant, like destroying stuff and controlling him and stuff. I always thought that was such a cool quest. And I hope they somehow bring back, God, what was it called? The Argent, the freaking tent area where you did dailies and jousting and shit, and then it opened up that whole raid over there. God, what was that entire area called? I freaking loved that whole thing. That whole part of the Wrath of the Lich King was so good. The Argent Crusade. Well, no, not the Argent Crusade. The Argent Tournament. Yes, that's what it was called. The Argent Tournament. I hope they bring back those grounds in some way, because I really enjoyed that part of Wrath of the Lich King a lot.
Northrend, we're
Yep, and
going
it
back
Trial of the
there, and you're
Crusader.
going to see what has changed, what has happened. And that'll be based on time, but that'll also be based on the events that are unfolding in front of us. And so it's finding that, again, that balance of nostalgia and what's happening in the world. How effectively can we hit those notes? And I remember we were having a long conversation about, like, do we go to the throne? Do we go to the frozen throne? Like, what do we do? Do we
Oh,
make
God,
that
that's a touchy
inaccessible?
one.
How do we, like, for people that's an important place.
I don't know what they do with it. Shadowlands really messed up all the Lich King lore, unfortunately. I don't know what they do with the Frozen Throne anymore. I don't know. That's a touchy one.
And so we've had a lot of discussion about it. So yeah, I mean, we're going to do our best to hit the right notes there and make people really happy to come back to Northrend.
But looking even back at like Kalimdor, Eastern Kingdoms, all these legacy places have such like a history to them, and knowing that people have been so excited about it and seeing folks' feedback on the beta and earlier on in alpha, and even when we announced that we were going back to Call for Last, yeah, that opens us up to like, okay, players do like this, and this is a cool thing to do in an expansion. So this is in Northrend, but I've always thought that like a space like Wormrest Temple is like this huge iconic part of the history of World of Warcraft that we never really go back to. We never go back to see what like
this was the real Dragonflight.
Any of the major cities or spaces where you can kind of see ongoing story happening, and then just the iconic zones. I mean, there's like big spaces like Elwyn Forest and Durotar, which house the major stories, but like even far-flung places like Stone Talon Mountains has a long storied history of there was black dragons under those mountains, and there's crazy stuff that went on in Warcraft 3 that we can come back and tell these stories on an ongoing basis. So yeah, I'm hopeful.
I wonder if they're going to use Wormrest and all that to bring in Ridicron's lore. Remember him, guys? I mean, he's still out there, right? He's still doing his thing. He still wants to bait out the last Titan, the Titans and everything to do whatever the hell he's going to do with them. He's waiting. And who knows? Maybe that whole area is very dragon affiliated. We got the all the essences of the old dragons and everything still there at Wormrest. So who knows? Maybe that's where we finally get a Ridicron trying to do whatever the fuck his plan is. I think a lot of people forgot about him this expansion, but he's still out there. Probably one of the cooler villains to come out of Dragonflight.
We can continue to sort of pepper stories around the rest of the world and hit some of these.
I don't think we'll see him in Midnight
zones that we know and love.
Yeah, nice video overall. That's some interesting stuff said by, and I like the kind of attention to detail that they claim they're using, right, with rebuilding these own zones, because there is sensitivity to it. You got to do it right. You can't just chop down all the trees in what's it called, in Grizzly Hills, and then say, oh yeah, welcome to the new great. Yeah, that'll cause a problem for sure. So it's definitely a sensitive subject. What the hell they're gonna do with Ice Crown? I have no idea. Putting like a broken crown up there, I don't know, man. Shadowlands did some damage to Ice Crown. I really don't know how you fix it. What's up, Cheap? How's it going? It might be the last Titan hub, since it's smack right in the middle of Northrend. Could be. They can't use Dalaran. That's true. I didn't even think about that, Arcadimus. They can't use Dalaran. It's gone. And that was our hub for Northrend. So what the hell would the player's city or hub be for Northrend in the last Titan? I didn't think about that. Interesting. I don't know if we should use the throne of the Lich King as a hub. Might still be some weird shit going on up there. But yeah, we are going to need a new hub. I didn't even think about that. Nice one. Nice interview here from Game Informer.